And once again, the Krueg Show is back with you and with us to talk more baseball and talk about the Giants in the second weekend in Arizona is our good friend, Marty Lurie. Hey, Marty, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. Come on, we're a week and 3 or 4 days away from opening day. Can you believe it?
It's
Really?
hard to believe. 11 days away from spring train from opening day. Starts next Friday at Oracle Park.
Yeah, and Gabe Kapler already said if Alcantara's pitching, which he probably will be, he's got Wade in left field, Yastrzemski in center, Jock Peterson in right, and who knows, maybe Duggar will be the DH. You got another lefty in there. And, we'll talk about it, but it's interesting. The Giants are the Giants. And, we go through spring training and we love to analyze the club and put this guy in the club and that guy in the club. But they know in November and December what the team is going to look like. And it hit me that we're going to watch them on opening day, and Logan Webb is going to pitch against the Marlins, and they're going to win the game 4-2. He's going to go 5 2/3. They'll bring in, Harlan Garcia or someone in the sixth inning, Leone, to get the last out. They'll pitch a seventh inning. Rogers will pitch the eighth and McGee the ninth, or vice versa. And they'll win 4-2. And we'll say, here we go again. And it made me realize they have their way of doing it. We're not going to upset the apple cart. And when it all starts and they start winning again, we're going to say, hey, they know what they're doing. And apparently they do.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's been last year was the 139th year of Giants baseball, and they won 107 games.
Yeah, easily.
In a year where they were projected to be 500, they won 107. The greatest Giant team I'd ever seen was the 93 Giants. They won 103. I never thought I would see it again. To see it eclipsed by 4 games by a team that I thought was going to win 79 or 80 games makes me want to defer to Farhan. So more so than I would defer to John Lynch with the Niners, more so than I would defer to Bob Myers with the Warriors. I feel I can need to almost kind of research every move that Farhan makes and try to see it through a couple different prisms before I'm going to comment on it, because he's got me rattled. I used to be able to just be like, hey, you know what? If I don't like it, I don't like it. Now I think, man, this guy's so damn smart. If he likes it, let's try to figure out why. And they
have their way of doing it. And look, they beat Arizona 17 times last year out of 19. They beat Colorado 15 out of 19. I think they were something like 11 against the Padres as well. And they did win the season series against the Dodgers. So they handled the West. And there wasn't a team in baseball, I said this all year long, that ever pushed them around. They have their way, whether it's platooning, understanding what the pitcher is going to throw, not chasing, hard hit ball rate. Their pitching staff leads the league in softballs hit, and it's an incredible, but that's what they do. And it's really interesting to see it. Now, look, yesterday they made a trade and they brought in, who was it? McCovey? Willie Mays?
Yeah. Oh, Cepeda. No, they got Cepeda, I believe, for Sadecki.
No, it wasn't. It was Chris Spire, right? No, I'm sorry. Luke Williams.
Luke Wilson? Luke Wilson?
Luke Wilson. Was that his name?
No, Luke Williams. I'm just joking. Luke Williams.
And on Twitter, all of a sudden I'm reading at Sports Larry K. And he's saying this is the greatest move since Swiss cheese. And this is going to just turn this team around. And he's going to be the utility guy. The guy has 50 at-bats in the big leagues. And he's hit, 200. So, but he plays 13 positions. And that's what they like. And that's why you get excited about it. They know how to do this thing. And I'm telling you, just sit back. We're going to watch them the first week or so. They're going to do the same thing they did last year. And we're going to get ready for the ride. I really believe it.
Well, why don't we start right there? In fact, Romo 2001 is weighing in the chat room. And if you want to chat, feel free. We'll read them throughout the show. Marty loves to see what the fans have to say. The question is Luke Williams the 2022 version of Mike Tauchman?
Yeah.
That could be construed any number of ways because
Well,
Talkman had some success and then eventually kind of flamed out. But let's
yeah.
talk about Luke Williams. They traded Will Toffey. Now you say, who's Will Toffey? Will Toffey is a guy that Farhan picked up in the offseason for nothing. And then here he is in spring training. He's never played even one game of Giants baseball, in a regular season game, and he's already dealt to the Phillies for Luke Williams. And I never even heard of Luke Williams. Never heard of Luke Williams. But man, I spent some time on YouTube last night looking at Luke Williams. And Marty, he had a double against the Giants, I believe, to left in a game at Oracle Park, either last year or the year before. I think it was last year. And, he looks like he could play a little third. I think I saw one highlight. He was playing second. I saw another highlight where he made a diving catch in center. So he's one of these guys. It sounds like, hey, if you can play third and second, and center field, you probably can play left and right and first and, everything else for that matter. I don't think he catches and I don't think he pitches, but Luke Williams coming for Will Toffey. The one thing I liked about him before you give me your thoughts is he's got bat speed. I mean, like if you watch him, he's a lean guy with bat speed. He's pretty athletic and he's got some power. Saw him hit one out to left field. If nothing else, he's versatile with what they call pop. How do you view Luke Williams? What do you know about him? What can you share with us?
Well, just what you've seen, I saw the home run he hit, the walk-off home run, and everyone got excited about that. He plays a number of positions. He's Jason Vosler. He's from the other side of the plate. And he becomes important because of all the moves that they make during the year and all the injuries. They have an older team. And the more players they have who can fit in up and down, Sacramento, back to San Francisco in different positions, the better. And that's who he is. He was on Team USA. He did well. He didn't go to the Olympics because the Phillies called him up and he was in the major leagues. He was on the 40-man. Castellanos got signed and they DFA'd this guy. And the Giants went after him. So Belt is hurt already. The knee is barking. Longoria has the longest finger injury in the history of Major League Baseball. He got hit in August. It still hurts. He may not be ready. This is a team that's got some injuries already, and that puts Blandino possibly on the team. It could put Luke Williams on the team. It could keep Estrada and Dubon on the team. It could keep Beatty on the team. Not only do they have 28 spots, but they could have a couple of guys. LaStella probably is not going to be ready to go. They could have 3 of their regulars on the DL, which gives guys like this a chance. So let's see what he does. Look, Lamont Wade came over. Who knew? Talkman came over and won a couple of games with home runs and great catches. Then he couldn't catch up to a fastball. So this is the kind of player they love. He's versatile, and he can help them win games. And let's give him a chance. I say give him a chance. Why not?
Oh, absolutely. And plus, now that we know this is Farhan's deal, we know that a lot of these guys that he picks out of thin air can play, right? He's got equity with the fan base, and he's got equity with me because I believe in him wholeheartedly. G-Don says, in Farhan we trust. Yeah. I know that sounds Pollyannish, but they won 107 games. You know what I'm saying? How could you not trust the guy?
It's funny. I was at the ballpark Friday, and who do I run into but Sabian and Bochy?
Wow.
And I got to talk to them a little bit, and, they're there to watch the game. I don't think they have any input to Farhan about anything really, but it was so different seeing them and then talking to Farhan and Gabe Kapler. It's a whole different world. And Farhan is vested now. He's a made man, and he doesn't have to worry about it. He's good for 3 or 4 years now. And he got his 107 wins. He believes in his process. You do, I do, the fan base does. Now they just have to go out and do it again or come close to it. I talked a lot this weekend about the National League. This is not going to be a picnic getting in the playoffs if you don't win the division. First of all, I think Colorado's going to be better. That's my dark horse team to get better in the National League West. I think they could play 500. But you got that East is just loaded.
The Mets are stacked.
Come on, you got the Mets have serious pitching. They got Bassett and Carrasco
Scherzer.
behind Scherzer and DeGrom.
Yeah.
You got
And
the
they can
Braves.
hit.
You got the Braves, still the Braves. Look, they're the World Series champion. You got the Phillies, who went out and got Schwarber. They got Castellanos.
They got a lineup.
They got Knebel. They got a bullpen at least now. And they have some pitching issues, but, they've got Nola, a big guy in Wheeler, and Zach Eflin and people like that. So those are the Phillies. And so you got the Mets, you got the Braves, you've got the Phillies, the Nationals.
Marlins always pitch.
The Marlins are no pushover. They're no pushover. They could have one of the best starting rotations in the league.
Right.
And then you get the Nationals, who are always trouble. They're always trouble. And they've got the best player in the league in Soto. So you get the East, and then you get St. Louis and Milwaukee. The Cubs, Pirates, and Reds are zeros. So the Brewers and the Cardinals are going to win 90 because they're going to crush the rest of the division. And then you come to the West with the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants. So you've got, for 3 spots, essentially, the 3 wild card spots, you can have 5 teams, 6 teams for the 3 wild card spots, and you can make an argument for all of them. So this is not a picnic this year. And you're going to have to win 85 to 90 games to feel good about being a wild card team.
No, I think it's a good point. Man, I was looking at the NL West standings. Giants won 107. Dodgers won 106. Diamondbacks lost 110 and finished 55 games out of first place. I don't think I've ever seen anybody 55 games out of first place. And I looked at them this spring. They look bad still.
Look up the Pittsburgh Pirates, 1952.
What did they lose that year?
It was very bad. The St. Louis, there were 60 games out, But your point is well taken. Arizona is a mess, and they're going to be a little better. Their pitching fell, everyone got hurt, and they're a little bit better this year. And Colorado. I think the West is a little bit more competitive this year.
The Martyites are starting to check in here. We've got Sad Burrito. He says, "Oh heck yeah," and then he says, "Baseball God." There you go. That's not referring to me. That's referring to you. And then he says, "The mosaic. I want to know about the mosaic, Marty."
Blank. It's you and I. You coined it, I think, for me, or maybe I did. But you and I said it a million times. It's a blank mosaic. Those tiles, I don't know what they're going to look like. And it really is a good story. And we rely on the 107. And, people, I heard someone say, well, why do you keep talking about the 107? I think you had to answer that comment. Why? Because they did it.
Yeah, because it's had the most wins in baseball.
And that's all we have to go on. They have a way of doing it. And, we talk about spring training and what's going on down here. It doesn't mean a lot because, as I say, opening day, he's got 6 lefties in there against Alcantara. He's got Slater and Ruff ready to come in as soon as they throw a lefty in there. That's the way they operate, and they really have it down.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this weekend. The one thing about spring training, the difference between spring training in 2022 compared to past years, in past years, there might be 1 game, maybe 2, maybe 3 at most that would find its way on television. So if you didn't go to Arizona, you basically just had to take everybody's word for it because you really couldn't put eyes on it yourself until the Babe Ruth series started. Now, as we sit here today on the 28th of March, we're 11 days away from opening day. Next Friday at Oracle Park, Giants and Marlins get it going for real. I heard Gabe Kapler say today that he's getting a lot of his team ready behind the scenes, that they're not necessarily out on the field, that they're working behind the scenes to get ready. And they've already had some injuries. I did see the games this weekend. I saw the game against the Angels. I saw the game against the Reds. And from what I can tell, man, the Giants starters, whether it be Cobb, who looked really good, Alex Woods looked really good. Logan Webb's going today in Maryvale against the Brewers. He looked fantastic first time out. On paper and just so far in the Cactus, the Giants starting rotation, Marty, looks like a real strength of this team. Give me your impressions of the starting staff thus far.
Well, it is the strength of the team. There's no doubt about it. Webb is pitching today against the Brewers. He's in the third inning, and he's already given up a 2-run homer to Willie Adames. And the Brewers are winning 2-1. So Webb's season is over. I'm sorry. He's
and Lamont Wade, just on one note on this, Lamont Wade got injured in this game today and has been taken off the field and away from the stadium. So I don't know what the injury was. I heard it reported earlier. So, add Wade to Longoria and Belt and LaStella and the seeming long line of injuries thus far.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm going to see Rodon tomorrow against Clevenger.
Rodon looked great, according to Casale.
Yeah, the Padres are in Scottsdale tomorrow, where the Giants have not won a game yet, by the way, but it's Rodon tomorrow in Clevenger. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that tomorrow. But the starting staff has been great. Cobb looked really good.
Yeah,
really good.
Battler, huh?
Wood is just a good pitcher. He just is a good pitcher. Webb is terrific. Rodon has been outstanding. And DeSclafani, you saw him over the weekend. He's a solid, he's a smart pitcher. And the bullpen is fine. The big question is who's going to close. And Kapler's been very critical of Duvall because Duvall is so slow to the plate. So they're messing around with him. They're trying to change his delivery and trying to speed him up because he's 1.7, 1.8 to the plate. And if that's the case, teams will run on him. Well, you got to get on first.
Yeah.
Dennis Eckersley was very slow to the plate. And of course, he saved 600 games, whatever it was. He was an MVP.
Rob Nen, the same thing. Rob Nen was slow to the plate.
Close. Look, how about Jansen? You could time him with a sundial, going to the plate. So it's kind of Kapler's way of, maybe challenging Duvall a little bit. But I think he's going to get the job. I think he's going to be the first choice to be a closer. Kapler a little critical there. Let's talk about the injuries.
Okay.
What I learned last year is I don't believe anything that they tell you because and this is Farhan. He's the fantasy football player. He's always looking for the competitive advantage over, the opponents, and whether it's on the team and picking players up or playing fantasy games, whatever it is, he's a competitor. And he's never going to tell you. They'll never tell you this guy's really hurt or that guy's really hurt. But until you see Belt, seriously, there's 10 games left, whatever it is down here.
7, I think.
7 left down here. All right. I want to see him on the field. I want to see Longoria on the field. And Wade, I hope he's not hurt. I want to see LaStella on the field. My inclination is, and I could be wrong, I think they're all going to end up on the disabled list to start the season.
Wow.
I really do. Now, maybe Kapler is telling the truth. Well, they're on the backfield. They're doing this, they're doing that. But until you see them in a game, you have to be concerned. And that's a little bit of a red flag for this team because, look, without Belt last year, it cost them the division championship. There's no question with Belt, they win that game. So injuries bother me a little bit. Starting staff is really, really good and solid. They're going to be in a lot of close games. Larry, last year they had 240 home runs or something like that.
241, yeah, led the league.
And
led the majors, I
over
believe.
50% of their runs were scored by the home run. Now, you change that a little bit, and all of a sudden they're struggling a little more to score runs, which I think is what we may see. That means they're going to be close games, and pitching will decide them. And I say it again to you, as I've said it to you for 25 years, you got to pitch first. And if you don't pitch, you got nothing. And I think they can pitch. I think they can handle it.
Interesting stat from last year, Marty. In one-run games, Dodgers, 24 wins, 24 losses. Giants, 31 wins, 17 losses.
Yeah.
Giants had an enormous number of one-run games, and they got over in most of them. But, Sad Burrito makes a good point here. He says, our roster is a bunch of older players. He's worried about the injuries. that is a great point. Yes, there is a farm system behind this team now that's it's a burgeoning system with deeper than ever with prospects, and it's not just a couple guys, it's a whole array of guys. But at the major league level, this is one of the older teams in the game. How much of a concern is the Giants' age in your way of thinking as we enter this season?
Yeah, very much so. There's no question. That is the red flag for everybody. And he makes a good point. Belt, Crawford, Longoria, Ruff, these are guys in their 30s. McGee is a little bit older as well. Posey, of course, is gone. He would have been 35. So, no, it's a point well taken. And that's why the depth is very important. Very important. That's why we would have liked to have seen another solid outfielder to step into this lineup. But they didn't do it. They didn't. They want to go with what they have. And that's what I say. In November, they figured it out. This is what we're going to do. But I agree. There is an absolute issue. If Crawford, Longoria, and Crawford are hurt, it takes away something from this team. Because, I heard you talking with Ray about the farm system. Well, Ramos is sent out, which he should be. He should be. He's got to play. The guy's got to get at bats. He's got to play. But, we love him. Matos is going to be in Eugene more than likely, to start the year. And I do agree with you on Matos. I got to see him play. Wow. Bat speed is legit.
Ooh,
I really got to see
something.
That. But, there's nothing really at Sacramento that's ready. Sean Hjelle, they sent him out. He's not really ready to step into anything. Beatty got crushed last week. He's still coming back from Tommy John. So, yeah, the injuries are an issue for me. God forbid one of the starting pitchers goes down. Is Carlos Martinez ready to come in? He could be a big part of it. Matthew Boyd will be ready in July, but there is not a lot of depth to back up injured stars. Yes, you got Estrada, you got Dubon, you got Luke Williams, you got Duggar, you got people like that. But people like that don't necessarily win you a pennant. You've got to have your guys for most of the year to win a pennant.
If I was Farhan, the guy that I would sign literally before dinner tonight is Yusmeiro Petit, because he can pitch in every single role. And you're right. They got a good rotation and maybe the strength of the team, but man, one or two injuries and you're leaning on either guys who are scrap heap guys or young kids who have never really proven it at the major league level. Petit is a little bit of a surprise to me that he's not out there. I realize he's not a power arm and he doesn't wow you with strikeouts, but man, I mean, this is a very dependable pitcher who can pitch long. He can pitch spot start. He can be in your rotation for half a season. I don't think he could make 32 starts, but I think he could make 15 to 20 starts and at the back of your rotation and give you something. Give me your thoughts on to me, there's two pitchers out there that if I was Farhan, I would want badly, and that's Yusmeiro and Tony Watson. I mean, Tony Watson, Marty, was throwing 94, 95 for the Giants in September and kind of ran out of gas, and he had an arm injury. If he's healthy, and last we checked, he wasn't, but if he is healthy, and if both those guys' arms are healthy, I'd want both those guys, whether they're on my major league team, at AAA, stashed away somewhere, because those are really good, proven pitchers that I think still have something left.
Well, Tony Watson, of course, was on with me. He was my, the philosopher of baseball for a couple of years.
So it's awesome.
It was nice to see him back. Tony Watson doesn't really fit on this team. Now, he helped tremendously last year, but they have Alvarez. They got Harlan Garcia, and they got McGee, and they got Sammy Long. Barriger is gone, the other lefty. So what are you going to really do with Tony Watson? Whose job is he going to take? There really isn't a spot for him. And the Mets, the last I saw, the Mets were very interested in him because the Mets need a left-handed reliever. It wouldn't shock me to see him go there. I don't think there's a spot for him on the Giants. As much as we'd love to have him back, I don't.
They traded 3 prospects to get him at the trade deadline last year.
The Angels, I know, with the Angels, that was the Menazians. Zach with the Giants is the director of player personnel or something, whatever he is, and his brother's the general manager of the Angels. So, hey, and if Perry says sign Cobb, they sign Cobb. You know, Terry said Cobb is good. All right. The other one is Petit.
Yeah.
And I have to ask you to stop thinking about 2012. It's 10 years ago. I'm sorry. The ship has sailed. You couldn't get 20 starts out of him if he pitched in the Winter League in Cuba. You couldn't. I'm sorry.
Well, but the thing is, you just said it, Marty. If they lose a pitcher or two, it's Carlos Martinez, and then what? Tyler Beatty,
Well,
Sammy Long. I mean,
that's
if it
wrong.
really came down to it, I love Sammy Long. I'm a Sac State guy, but I didn't see enough from Sammy Long last year to say, yeah, you know what? He should be in a rotation in the major leagues. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Sammy Long is. He's got pretty good stuff. But I'm not sure if he's a reliever, a starter, a minor leaguer, a major leaguer. I'm not. Do you have a good handle on what he is? What do the Giants say about Sammy Long?
No, he's exactly what you said. He's a swing guy. He can start. You give him 3 or 4 innings. He's got to get that curve. His curveball is major. He's got to get command of that. That's a tough pitch to throw in the big leagues for a young man. And look, he was a fireman, wasn't he, a few years ago? And he was a tremendous story, the way he got his career going again with the White Sox, and the Giants eventually found him. I think he's a big part of what could happen, but I think he's a swing man, to tell you the truth. And I wouldn't want to rely on him, but he's the kind of arm that is the depth piece for the Giants. As much as I love Petit, he's really a middle reliever at this stage. Now, if you needed him, but they have, they've got Zach Littell, they've got Leone, they've got Rogers, and probably missing someone else in the right-handed mix there. But
Dominic Leone is
Littell, Rogers. They've got them ready to go. They got Duvall in the back.
They got Kervin Castro.
Yeah, and I just don't see Petit knocking those guys out. But your point is well taken. If there's some dramatic injury to a couple of starting pitchers, probably the first shot is Carlos Martinez if something happens. But if a couple went down, your point's well taken. You do look for a guy like a Petit who at least has a major league arm.
The guy that I mentioned either to you or to somebody else recently was Jed Lowry. He re-signed with the A's over the last couple of days. Farhan had made some references to potentially picking up another player who could play second base and hit a little bit. I'm not sure if maybe he's talking about this kid that they just picked up from Philadelphia. I guess my big question with the Giants is what's going to happen behind the plate and how will they hit? I do feel like they'll pitch. And I do feel like their analytics, Marty, I really think their analytics almost guarantees that their defense will be pretty good. So pitching's there, defense is there, but like, what are they going to get from behind the plate and what are they going to get in the outfield? I look at their team. Not only did they lose Posey, maybe their best right-handed hitter. If you said who's their second best right-handed hitter, it's probably Chris Bryant. They lost him. If you said who's their third best right-handed hitter, it's probably Donnie Solano.
I'd say Ruff.
Ruff. But I mean, then Solano would be next. So they lost either their top 3 or 3 of their top 4 right-handed bats, and they really haven't replaced them. So how much of a concern is that for you?
Very much. Very much. That's why I say it even today. Their right-handed bat in the outfield was still the way I felt they had to go. They had to get that one reliable middle-of-the-order guy. And they've got a deep farm system. And when you make a trade today, we keep talking about Jose Ramirez and stuff like that. But I talked to some of the Giant personnel, the front office guys on Friday, and said, well, are you going to make a deal or not? And they said, I don't think so. But they have the farm system to make a deal because you give up prospects 3, 14, and 28. You don't give up 1, 2, and 3 to make a deal anymore.
Sure.
That's not the way it works. So maybe they still can make a deal. I don't know. But I agree with you. Right-handed hitting is an issue for me. And you see more righties than lefties. So they do have a lefty-heavy lineup. So maybe that helps them. But I agree with you. It would be nice to see another right-handed hitter. Now, catching. Joey Bart, all he's got to do, I don't know where you hit. I'm going to ask you this, where you hit him in the lineup. but all he's got to do is catch. And I mean that literally. Catch the ball. Don't let it clank off you at all. Catch the ball, be a good catcher for this pitching staff, which is a wild pitching staff. I mean, you got everybody is wild and different. You got to catch in the big leagues. I think Casale's going to get more playing time than you think. But for Bart, don't put pressure on this kid to hit. If you want to hit him eighth, hit him eighth. Don't put any offensive pressure on him. He loves hitting, and I think he will hit. But if he doesn't hit, he cannot take that out to the field. They need a catcher, and that's what I want to see from him, how he catches. And that's really up in the air. They will get a catcher at AAA. There's no doubt in my mind. Over this next week or so, they will come up with a minor league catcher. They sent Anavisi out. They sent Patrick Bailey out. And neither is ready to step into the big leagues if, God forbid, anything happened to the two guys. They need a AAA catcher. And I will guarantee you within the next week, they will have a solid AAA catcher.
Sad Burrito says multiple articles say Farhan might get a Wilson Contreras. I mean, I think you may have to trade Bart if you're going to make that deal, right? I don't see Wilson Contreras coming here without somebody like a Bart or a Bailey going back. Let me ask you about Bailey, because I think Bailey is the guy that we're not talking enough about. I watched him yesterday, and to me, he looks like a much improved offensive player from a year ago. Then I talked to some of my Giant farm system people that know these guys pretty well, and they say that Bailey is probably the better of the two behind the dish between him and Bart. Yeah. So what do you saw Bailey, you probably saw him rifle that double down the right field line. What do you think, Marty? What are the people around the club saying about Patrick Bailey? Where do you think he'll start the year? How far is he out? Is there a chance that we're reading this wrong and that they're going to go with Patrick Bailey and not Joey Bart out of the Cactus League?
No way, Jose.
No way.
No way. No way. That is not going to happen. Patrick Bailey barely hit at Eugene last year, and they had to send him.
Is that double A? What's Eugene?
That's high A. Yeah.
Okay.
So
forget about that. He needs double A.
Yeah. He's got to go. I think he'll start at Eugene. To tell you the truth, I think that's where he's going to start. And if he hits 350, which we hope he will, or whatever, 290, with some power, then he goes to Richmond. And that should be his progression this year. But he was drafted as a first-round pick, the first pick they took, as a defensive catcher. He is known as, he wanted to be his whole life. If you said to Patrick Bailey when he was 12 years old, Patrick, do you want to be Larry Krueger, or would you like to be a catcher in the big leagues? He would say, gee, Larry, I like him a lot, but I think I'd rather be a catcher in the big leagues. That's what he wanted.
So you're saying this is not the smartest kid they've had?
No, he is. He is. In NC State, he's terrific. He's a great kid, but he's a catcher, and that's where his future is going to be. He got a hit off Hunter Green, and
he throws 100.
He throws 100 when he's having a bad day,
right?
And he hit a ball, the other way, or he pulled it in the hole, whatever it was. But that was his hit. I think it's great he's in the camp, and I think it's great that they like him. And I hope he has a good minor league season so we really can see the potential. But this kid can catch, and that's the big thing about him. He can catch, and at some point he will be in the big leagues.
We got this one from C Dubber 3030. He said, I thought Sean Hjelle looked good. Yeah. What is the casual follower not seeing? So C Dubber 3030 says that he's a casual fan. But Marty, I saw Hjelle pitch the other day, and man, I mean, he's 6'11". He's very compact for a 6'11" pitcher, and the stuff is premier. It's good stuff. I mean, it's a downward plane. It's a hard breaking pitch. It's a really lively fastball. Excuse me. What do you think of Sean Hjelle?
Innings. He needs innings. He's got to go to Sacramento and pitch in a rotation and show that he can pitch every fourth or fifth day and get innings under his belt. And then we'll see what he is. But he's done. I said this to Woe the other day because I wanted to know what Woe thought about Hjelle. And I said, Woe, it seems to me like what you just said, Larry. Every time the guy goes out there, nothing bad happens.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I'm saying, gee, maybe Hjelle is ready and this and that, but he needs innings.
Mm-hmm.
He needs AAA innings, and then we'll see where he's at.
As a starter, though.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Definitely. He's grooming to be a starter. It
Yes.
sounds like this is the year he'll break through then. It's just a
I
matter of
hope
when.
so. I hope so. You know, look, Beatty and Hjelle are the two guys. If they were on the right track, they would be the Corbin Burns and Woodruff, you know, of the Giants, you know, that kind of thing. But Beatty got sidetracked. He never quite made it. Then he got hurt. And this guy lost the COVID season. Last year was, you know, back and forth, AA, AAA. He needs a solid minor league season. And Beatty needs to find his command. And that's not so easy after you go through Tommy John.
You know, it's so true, Marty. You have to show patience with young starters.
Yeah.
I saw Tom Glavine. You know, he's a Hall of Famer. I saw him come to the majors. He got ripped. I saw John. Yeah, John Smoltz came up with the Braves in the late 80s, got ripped.
Yeah.
Heck, 2 years ago, Logan Webb was getting absolutely tarred and feathered in September, and now he's one of the best young pitchers in the game.
Yeah.
Tyler Beatty is interesting to me because he's very smart and his stuff is well above average. And I know you could mix in some injuries, you know, because that's been his story, and that's derailed him to some degree. But Marty, this guy, you know, from what I'm looking at, looks like a major league starting pitcher. He may not be an ace, but he looks like a solid 2 or 3 starter in the big leagues. But he's, you know, for a guy who's got 95 to 97, 3 pitches, breaking balls that dart all over the place, he sure gets hit around a lot. And he doesn't seem like he gets the results that his stuff should indicate he should get. Yeah. What do you hear about Tyler Beatty? What do guys like Ron Wotus and guys who know this team really well, what are they saying about Beatty? Because I would say some guys are like, well, they're about due. He's past due. He should have already stepped in and done something, and it hasn't happened. What's the story there?
Well, the injury really was at a bad time because he started to look like he was dominant. You know, he'd go out. Remember, he would strike people out, and he had some really good starts. And then he had some that were not so good, but that's where the patience comes in. The arm is there. Now the injury has set him back, so he's got to get it back again. They should not give up on him. They shouldn't give up. I hope they keep him on the 28-man. And if they have to DFA him to get him back to Sacramento at some point, do it during the season so another team would have to keep him on the major league roster, and that's not so simple for a team to do. But you got to be patient with him. The stuff is there. When Tim Hudson was here, Timmy said to me, he said, where do you see this guy throw? And meaning Beatty. I mean, he said he had the best slider in camp or whatever it was. So the arm is there. I think for Beatty, you must just be patient and understand he's coming back from Tommy John. And basically, you know, the old story, you know, Rex Barney was, you know, a great fastball pitcher and was supposed to be a phenom in the late 40s, early 50s. And he never quite made it because he couldn't find the strike zone. And for Beatty, it's putting the ball where he wants to put it. And they always said about Rex Barney, if high and outside was a strike, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. You know, and for Beatty, he's got to have that not control, not to just throw a strike, but command to throw it in a certain spot. And I say give him time because the arm is there. It is legit.
You know, it's so true. It's like there's so many guys who have big league arms, but not big league control. Yeah. I remember when the Giants picked up a pitcher out of Cincinnati named Ricky Pickett, and Ricky Pickett threw like 98. And I asked Dusty Baker about him, and I'm like, Dusty, this guy's throwing 98, huh? He's got killer stuff. What do you think of him? And Dusty quickly looked at me and said, Krueg, everything's up here. Everything's up here. And it's like that's simple as that. You got to be able to keep the ball down. Big league hitters, if you elevate the ball, The old you hang it, I bang it. I mean, they're going to hit that ball up in the zone. So you got to be able to pitch. You got to be able to have command, and you got to be able to keep the ball down.
Well,
This is one, Marty, that I think is an interesting one that I've got to get your thoughts on. We go ladies line here on the in the chat. Carol Tieso. Carol, thanks for watching the Krueg Show, and Marty appreciates it as well. She asks, what do you think of Bednar? Will Bednar was the Giants' first-round draft choice a year ago, and immediately Baseball America vaulted him, I believe, into their top 10. I love the makeup of this kid watching him pitch in the College World Series. He's got a great arsenal, and he's got it. He's a bulldog out there. I really like the future of Will Bednar. He hasn't gotten into a Cactus League game and probably won't, I would imagine. But what are you hearing about Bednar? Where do you think he'll start? How he did pitch major college. How far do you think away from the big leagues he potentially is?
See, I love this kid. And when I saw him for Mississippi State and the stuff he had, I said, boy, this stuff translates. Because, Art Howe taught me this a long time ago with the command control stuff. Control is throwing a strike. Command is throwing the ball where you want to throw it. This kid looked like he had command of a really good slider. And I crazily, in my own, thought, I said, this guy is not that far from the big leagues. I think he's a year away. So I think it's Richmond for him. And I don't know how they're going to use him, starter or reliever. But that is a good question for Kyle Haynes that I should explore, and maybe you should as well, before opening day. I like this guy a lot. I think he is going to be a star in the big leagues. He's got a big league arm, and I would hope he'd be a starter. But I think at some point he could come up and help him out of the bullpen. I'll tell you another thing, Larry. Years ago, when you talk about guys like Hjelle and Sammy Long and people like that, what teams would do is they would bring them in as long relievers. And they would put him in for 4 innings, 5 innings, 3 innings, if the starter got knocked out. And that was their baptism into the major leagues. We don't have that anymore. And we miss that because you need innings in the big leagues. And for a guy like Bednar, if you could just get him up to the big leagues and get him in games, I think he could be very good. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And his brother pitches for the Pirates.
Yeah.
So it's a baseball family.
Absolutely. One of the when you mention that, having a guy with a starter potentially with a real live arm pitching in those middle innings, I think of the 95 Tribe and Julian Tavares, and how good he was in that role because his stuff was electric. And, you bringing him in the 4th or 5th, and he's getting you to your, to the 7th.
Yeah.
And those are big innings. And I thought Julian did that role exceptionally well for Cleveland, and then became more of a high leverage inning guy here in San Francisco. Sad Burrito's got this one. He says, Marty and Larry, I got prospects names. Tell me what you think. Okay. You throw them at us, Sad Burrito. He's going RJ Dabovich. Marty, I know a lot about the Giants. I will defer to you on RJ Dabovich.
All right. I'm going to defer to the burrito. Let the burrito figure this one out. I've seen his name.
He had great minor league stats last year.
I know. And there's a big fastball, a lot of strikes. San Jose, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And he was very, very good. But that's San Jose was low A. Right. So it's like Matos, he was a low A player. You've got to make that jump to Eugene and then to Richmond. So let's see what let's see what he does last year, but you can't ask a guy to do any more than he did last year.
Here we go. We got another one. Jason Krazan. Krazan's a polished hitter who had good minor league numbers. Yeah. He's just not doesn't wow you in any way. He reeks of utility, pinch hitter type. He's not I don't look at him as a future everyday big leaguer at all, but he's continued to hit even in this camp, huh?
Yeah, no, he can hit a little bit, and he is in the mix with Blandino, and not at the level of Dubon or Estrada, but he's in that mix of Luke Williams and those kind of people. He's a solid AAA player, and he did well at Sacramento, and he's hit well in the camp. He did it
Yeah.
last year too. So if something happens, look at Vossler. You know, he went to Sacramento, and before you knew it, he was up and down 7 times. 7 times last year.
Where can Krueg play? Is he a catcher? Is
No,
he
he's
infield,
second,
outfield?
yeah, second, you know, a middle infield backup kind of guy,
Okay.
pretty
Yeah, I
much.
mean, he's got good minor league numbers as an offensive player.
Yeah.
How about this one? This is an interesting name. Gregory Santos. Gregory Santos was up with the Giants, demonstrated maybe as good a stuff as Camilo Doval or Kervin Castro, and then got the, I think, 80-game suspension for the PEDs, and that kind of ended his year. But man, I think Gregory Santos, you know, who knows? Maybe the PED suspension was a blessing in disguise, because maybe the Giants would have traded him in July for help. Instead, he's still here, and he's got closer stuff as well, or potentially he could be a starter, right? And what are you hearing about Santos? Because he's a big kid, a lot of physical stature, and incredible arm. Just one of many the Giants seem to have these days.
Yeah, I think he went backwards a little bit because of the suspension. And when he came up to the big leagues, didn't he walked some people, gave up a home run. It wasn't pretty.
Right.
And then they just said goodbye. And he went back to Sacramento. And then he got busted, and that was the end of his season. He's still here. Big arm. I mean, a major arm. And it's a question of harnessing it. If he's not with the Giants and they move him, he's a guy in 3 years you could say, gee, didn't the Giants have this guy? You know, it's that kind of arm. So I think he is a potential to be moved if they decide to make a deal. I think he's the kind of guy that I would, if I was the other team, I would come after.
All right, Sad Burrito's not asking this one. This one's coming from me. Call me, I don't know, Sad Chimichanga. Grant McCray. You see, he's been running around out there. What do you think? I mean, he's an athlete. There's some bat speed there. I'm not sure how far his age and what level he was at and where he's at in the development curve. I don't think he's on the verge or anything, but he's getting into some of these Cactus League games and he's showing some of his abilities.
I haven't watched enough of him to tell you the truth. I really haven't. He's one of the, the Joe McCarthys of the world. We love him, and they try. Matheson and Austin Dean, who now got outright of the Sacramento. I assume he's in that group of those kind of people. You want to see him do well here. So if something goes wrong, you can't pick him and bring him in. But I don't know enough about him to tell you whether he's close or not.
I did a video the other day on this guy, Alex Blandino, and Romo 2001 says Blandino seemed to be having better at-bats down there than Krueg in spring training. Yeah. Alex Blandino coming into today was hitting 545.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard anything, any whispers around Blandino, but another guy, Marty, versatile guy. And we're talking about this team needs right-handed bats. Yep. This guy might be one of the answers. In fact, I'm pretty convinced that he's going to be one of their right-handed bat answers this year. What do you think?
I agree with you. We had Woe on this weekend just talking about guys who stand out.
Yeah, what does he say about him?
He mentioned Blandino, and the way he can get on the team is with all the injuries.
Yeah.
LaStella and Longoria are not playing, and they want to keep Estrada, and who knows what will happen with DeBone. Blandino can be on this team. He can make the team. He has shown that much, and he's been in the major leagues before. This isn't a guy that we don't know who he is. He's got more experience than Luke Williams. Blandino's got a shot to make the team.
Wow. Yeah, he's a good. What I like about Blandino, he knows the strike zone, and he sees pitches. So, I mean, right there, the Giants kind of like the profile of the hitter that knows the zone and can see pitches. I think it was like 4.2 pitches seen per at bat last year. Yep. That would have led the San Francisco Giants. Yaz saw the most. I think it was 3.9 per. But this guy is even more patient than Yaz. So you add a couple guys like that to your lineup, and suddenly you're a very difficult lineup for pitchers to navigate.
You're building the pitch count up. I mean,
exactly.
And look, Yaz would have a 12-pitch at bat, then he'd fly out. But it meant something to the hitter after the next guy, that all of a sudden you're in a 20-pitch inning. What the Giants do, and again, get ready for this. They put the pitchers in 20 pitch innings right in the first inning.
Yep.
They got guys who can, LaStella can take pitches, Yastrzemski can take pitches, Wade can take pitches, Ruff can take pitches. And you get to that number 4 hitter. If he gets on, you're looking at 28 pitches in the first inning. And they do that all the time. So that your point's well taken. If Blandino can do that, it's a big plus. But that's what they do. That's how they wear down. Just watch the starting pitcher on the other team, 24, 22, 26 in that first inning. It happens all at Scherzer, Kershaw. I don't care who it is. Buehler, they crush that Sunday night game. They kill you in the first inning, second inning. All of a sudden, your pitch count is 53, and you're in the second inning. They do that all the time, and that's a strength of the team. And, they said about Bo Jackson, Bo knows. Well, Blandino knows.
Well, here's the thing with the Giants: don't nibble. Don't nibble. If you're one of these
chase.
pitchers that nibbles the corners, they're gonna terrorize you.
They don't chase.
They don't chase
as hitters.
Yep.
They don't chase. Ruff, you look at his percentages. A chase percentage, it was Soto, Acuna, and Ruff. It was something crazy like that. He was like 4th in the majors in chase percentage. So Larry, I'm telling you, it's a huge part, because when you get a pitcher in deep counts, that's when they make a mistake, and that's when they hit it out.
Yeah, no question. A few more minutes with Marty Lurie, who's kind enough to give us some of his time on this Monday on the Krueg Show. Eddie F. says, what will happen with Mauricio Dubon? You mentioned Dubon and you mentioned Thairo Estrada, and we already talked about Tyler Beede. Those 3 guys are in a unique situation because those 3 guys are out of options, meaning if they don't make the final roster at the end of spring training, the Giants will have to pass them through waivers. And Marty, I think all 3 of these guys are in that group of, they're borderline to make the roster. They may make it, they may not, but I don't think any of those 3 guys slips through waivers. Yeah. Dubon's shown too much. Thairo Estrada is, too versatile. And Tyler Beede, I mean, heck, the Giants have pitching depth that other teams don't have. There's plenty of teams around the big leagues that would take Tyler Beede and just take a chance on that stuff and throw him in the back of the rotation. If he gets tarred and feathered, so be it. What do you think? What's going to happen with Dubon and Estrada and Beede? Does their no options impact their final roster status in your mind?
Well, Estrada is on the team. I mean, you can take that to the bank. Yeah. I mean, so take him out of this discussion. Estrada is there. He's the only backup really to Crawford. I mean, honestly, Dubon can, but Estrada is on this team. There's no doubt about it. Dubon's a good question. He's a good question. He could be traded. That's someone maybe you could get the catcher back that I'm talking about. He could be traded. And if the 28-man roster comes into play with injuries, maybe they could save him. When you get down to the end, and you and I have talked about this for 20 years, it's inventory. You don't want to lose people.
Right, especially in March.
You don't want to lose people ever. So if a guy has an option, you option that guy out and you keep the extra guy like Dubon. If I had a guess, I would say trade him.
Really? Yeah.
Now, that's just my own guess. I don't think
I'm not a fan of his base running. I just think that I just don't feel like he's got natural instincts for the game. He's got tools and he's enthusiastic and he's confident. He's a very confident young player.
Great kid.
And he's a good kid, but some of the base running mistakes that he made were just, wow. Like you're sitting there scratching your head going, did he just do what I thought he just did? His instincts on the bases are not great.
No, but he has some raw ability and he does bring that to the game. He does bring that to the game. Maybe if you could move him for a piece that you need, not Luke Williams, not someone that's a hope and a prayer, but for someone who actually could go to Sacramento and be the catcher or something like that, I would consider it. I would. And Beede, you got to figure out a way to keep him. Maybe they'll DL him. Maybe, there's something wrong. My elbow isn't right yet. It hurts. All right, 15-day DL, and that's how we save you. and therefore then they bring him back after that. And if they did have to DFA him, all the other teams are set already, so you could get them through that way. But they do not, and I would hope not. I could be wrong, but I would hope they do not lose Tyler Beatty. The arm is too strong, too strong. And they're the laboratory, they're driveline, they're the computer guys. You got to make this guy better. It's there.
Couple more thoughts around baseball. This guy says he'd like to see either Frankie Montas or Sean Manaea from the A's. Talking about how many years of control they have left. So the A's,
other teams.
Yeah, exactly. The A's fire sale kind of halfway, right? Matt Chapman's in Toronto, Chris Bassett's with the Mets, Olson's in Atlanta, and they haven't moved Manaea or Montas yet. But Marty, I got to think that's coming. I don't know if it'll happen before opening day, but I'm pretty sure it will happen before the 4th of July.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right about that. I think we're getting so close to opening day. It's tough to make a big move right now. So I agree with you. I'll say trade deadline, both will go. We'll go. It'd be wonderful to get them.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really the Giants' need more than anything. I mean, they've got pretty good pitching, but man, both those are two excellent young arms if Manaea is healthy. Manaea's had some injury problems. How about the story of the day in baseball? Albert Pujols goes back to the Cardinals. He gets I think it's a 1-year deal for $2.5 million. He won a couple titles there in St. Louis. I never liked that decision for baseball, for Albert to go from a place where he was a folk hero to he's just another guy rolling around Southern California with a fat contract. It just didn't work. The Angels never found a way into the postseason, and his career is less important because he went there than it would have been if he had stayed in St. Louis. Never liked that decision. I don't like when teams, when players leave teams where they've got, an incredible following to go to another team where they're just a hired gun. But what do you think? I mean, he showed last year, if you have a left-handed pitcher on the mound and you're going to big at bat late in the game, this guy can still hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Come on, Talkman changed the game around. The ball that Pujols hit.
Yeah, it's a good call.
That changed, won the game and won the division for the Giants. Yeah, he hurt the lefties. He can't run. He can't play the field. The DH saves him. And he's back in St. Louis. It's a good baseball story. And let's see how they use him. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's a great dugout guy. They got Wainwright, Yachty, and him. And I love the Cardinals. I've always liked that organization. They got a new manager this year. So we'll see what happens with that. But, yeah, it's a good baseball story. And, look, maybe he'll hit, was he 15 shy of 700?
Something like that, yeah.
So maybe that would be a nice story to follow.
Another story.
His career, I'll tell you that, with the Dodgers.
Oh, absolutely. Another story that kind of surprised me today: the Arizona Diamondbacks extended Ketel Marte. Yeah. I thought there was a very good chance that Marte was playing his final games in Arizona and that he would be dealt. He can play center, he can play the infield, he can really, really hit. But obviously they like him and they wanted to keep him, and they extended him today. That caught me by surprise because I look at the Diamondbacks, Marty, as a team that's very far away from contention, and I'm not even sure if Marte will still be there by the time they're ready to contend.
Well, you have to spend money on somebody.
Yeah.
We don't have a floor in baseball, so, you can get teams with a $30 million payroll, a payroll less than Scherzer makes. But the Diamondbacks, they are in business. They are down here in the market, and he is one of their most exciting players. So you have to spend money on somebody, and I'm glad they did. He's a nice player.
You're down there in the desert, and I was talking to Ray Woodson earlier today. He's down there in the desert as well. And I asked Ray how the teams, would rank as far as here, let's say Niners, Giants, Warriors. There, he said the Phoenix Suns, then the Cardinals, then the Diamondbacks. And I guess I would throw it to you. Are the Diamondbacks even the most popular National League West team in Phoenix? or is that team the Dodgers or the Padres because of proximity, or the Giants because of the booming radio station and the fact that the Giants trained in Phoenix at AAA for years and years and years? If how would you break down the baseball fandom in the Valley?
Well, there's so many transplants from all over that come from all over. And there's a lot of
Cubs draw well, right?
Yeah, the Cubs are huge down here. They've been here since the early 50s. It's huge. And people come from all over. I would say that the Diamondbacks still get the majority of the fans, which they should, when they play well. If they don't play well, then you're talking about Giant fans coming out, Dodger fans, Padre fans. There's a lot of Californians who've moved here. I still say the Diamondbacks, when they play well, that's the team. But the Giants, they're the team that travels. They travel wherever they go. It's like the 49ers. And you did this on all the 49ers shows. You know what the road was like for the 49ers against the Rams and all that. I think the Giants travel well and probably travel better than the Dodgers and the Padres.
Marty, give me two things here. Give me your surprise thus far from Giants camp, and maybe a team that you think might be the surprise team this year in MLB.
Okay. Well, I think the surprise for me is how good the starting pitching looks down here, because this is a tough place to pitch.
Sure. Thin air.
Really. And pitchers are ahead of the hitters. I understand that. These guys come in throwing and all that. It's easier to throw than to hit, in an off season. The surprise for me is that we're talking about, hey, this pitching staff could be the best in the league, the starting staff. So that to me has been the biggest surprise. I didn't think they'd be that strong, with bringing in new, DeSclafani back, Wood back. Both were hurt at different times last year. Rodon is here, and we've got Cobb here and Webb. So, yeah, pitching for me. Dark horse team. Boy, I think it's the Mets.
They've had a great offseason.
I think it's the Mets. If they stay healthy, they still have – now, Conforto is still out there. I don't know where he's going to end up. He's the last free agent that's pretty much out there. But they've got Pete Alonso. They've got Lindor. They've got a good pitching staff. They've got Diaz, in the bullpen. They've got Davis and Smith and a bunch of names we don't really know. But they're a pretty good team. I'm going to say the Mets would be my dark horse this year, to get past the Phillies, the Braves, and the Nationals. I'll go Mets.
Sad Burrito says, I love your interviews, Marty, this weekend. Really love it. Great work. Keep it up. And he says, you too, Larry, on YouTube. What do you think of Bob Melvin, Marty? And what kind of impact do you think Melvin's going to have for the Padres in this division? Because, they got a lot of talent there, and they just haven't been able to get it done.
Huge. Big talent on that ball club. The clubhouse was a mess. Everything was going wrong, and the manager looked like he was afraid to open his mouth in the dugout. Remember that? He'd be standing there in the corner of the dugout and looked like he was overwhelmed. It felt terrible for the guy. Bob Melvin has stature. Bob Melvin is a major league manager. Bob Melvin is, the Dick Williams coming in, the Jim Leland coming in, the manager who walks in with, and you look and say, this guy knows what he's doing. We're not going to mess with him. And when you got Tatis and Machado and the game the way it's played today, and he's got a pitching staff. We'll see tomorrow. We'll see Clevenger tomorrow. Lamet will pitch tomorrow for the Padres. So I'm anxious to see that. But I think Bob Melvin walks into a clubhouse, and all of a sudden, the music stops. And I think that's what he brings to the Padres.
G-Don says, Marty, Larry, how many wins for the Giants this year?
Yeah.
This is a tough thing to really talk about, because last year Arizona and the Giants had the identical over-under, and Arizona lost 110 and the Giants won 108. So that tells you how much Vegas really knows. They don't know a whole lot. The Dodgers are favored again to win this division. The Giants are favored to finish second. I think probably the Padres are favored to finish third, then Colorado, then Arizona. Realistically, what's a good win total for the Giants this year?
Well, a good win total would be 90. And I think they're going to need 90 to get in. I think it's going to take 90 to get in. That's a tough one. I can give you a number now, and I may change it next week and all that, depending on if they pick anybody up and what we see. But I would say this club, and I always say this out of spring training, if you tell me the club can win 90 games, then they're a good team. And all right, let's bring the season on. I'm ready. Let's see what happens. I'm going to say they can win 90. Now, they may win 87, they may win 93, but they're capable of winning 90. And for me, that's the magic number. So I'm going to go 90.
Yeah, I'll go one more. I'll go 91. 90 because Farhan is that competitive. 91 because it may take 91 to get them in. So I'll go slightly over, but I think we're pretty much right on the mark there.
Yeah, 90 is the key. If you can come out of spring training saying this club can win 90, that's all you ask.
Yeah,
that's all you ask.
Then what did you think of the rule that they're going back to for the runner on second? I thought when we first talked that was not going to happen in extra innings, but now they're going back to it. They're like, hey, you know what? We're going to have the runner on second base in extra innings this year. What do you think?
You want to save pitchers and blah blah blah, make the game shorter and all that kind of stuff. Nobody wants an 18-inning game, a 15-inning game. The health of the pitchers, and they have a billion reasons. I would have rather seen it in the 11th or 12th inning and given you 1 or 2 innings to try to play baseball to win the game. But that's not the way people look at it today. And they're reading the room. And I don't think there's an outrage either within baseball or without baseball, other than maybe, the true seam heads of the game to get rid of this rule. It's okay. As Woe said over the show, we talked about over the weekend, it creates another dynamic for the game. You got a bunt. Do you get 2 runs instead of 1? Are you home? You're away. You got to run. You think you're feeling great. And all of a sudden, the guy's on second. So there is a different dynamic to the game. It's okay. I would have rather have seen it in the 12th inning.
Give me your lineup this weekend. What for people who are, you're down there, is it the one more weekend? This is the final weekend of spring training. The Giants will be back on Friday in San Francisco to take on the Marlins and begin the 2022 season. But give me your thoughts on the final weekend of Marty's broadcast in the desert. What can we look forward to?
Yeah, Saturday is the only show because there's no game Sunday. They're off on Sunday. And I could use about a 4-hour show on Saturday instead of an hour and 50 minutes. And it starts come on at 10 a.m. The game is an hour earlier on Saturday, so we come on at 10. But it's the time I make predictions. Come on, this is when I used to love doing the post-game show, and get all the calls in, who's going to lead the team in home runs. And you and I should do this before the season.
Yeah.
Do our predictions and invite the fans to give us those things. I'll do an Original Joe's contest Saturday to predict the Giants' record for the year, and we'll keep it aside. And then, whoever gets closest gets the dinner for 2 at Original Joe's. So we'll start that contest that we do every Sunday. But Bill and Kerry will be on. Probably a couple of the writers will be on. Try Joe Sheehan. Maybe I'll get him on, who's a very good baseball analyst. But it's more to give predictions. This is it. This is the last weekend because the season starts April 8th. So it's going to be one of those shows. I'm going to try to get as many people on to give their predictions on what they think is going to happen. And we love that part of baseball with Jenkins and Wotus and everybody else.
Well, I'll tell you one guy that you don't need to have on because you already know what his prediction is, and that's Dave Roberts. Roberts went on the Dan Patrick Show and guaranteed that the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. I asked Ned Colletti about that, and he said no manager that he ever had ever did that, but he kind of liked it because it says that Roberts is confident. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't like, to me, you never want to, you're the Dodgers. You got the highest payroll in the game. You're getting everybody's A game anyway. But even so, just because you're getting everybody's A game doesn't mean you need to invite the circus to town.
No.
And by making a comment like that on a national show like Patrick's, they're guaranteeing they're getting everybody's full and undivided attention. And we'll see if they can handle it. I thought that was very interesting. What did you think?
Yeah, well, I would never say anything like that because you got to live with it all year. And if they don't win the World Series, that becomes the question. Well, Dave, you said they're going to win the World. Well, Dave, you did say that, Dave, it's August and, you're 4 games out. Dave, you're in the championship series. You're down 3-1. So he's got to answer it the whole year. And you don't make comments like that. And you and I've talked about this on the air, the old Bill Terry manager. Did I tell you the story, of the New York Giants?
Right.
1934, Giants and Cardinals were bitter rivals, Carl Hubble and Dizzy Dean and all that kind of stuff. And they talked to Bill Terry, who was a manager of the Giants. He was sort of a taciturn kind of guy. And they said, Bill, what do you think about the Brooklyn Dodgers? And he said, are they still in the league? Right? So here we go, the last weekend of the season. Giants chasing the Cardinals. Who do the Giants play? The Brooklyn Dodgers. And what happens? The Dodgers knock the Giants out. So I love the story. I could hear Bill Terry's voice saying it. There's some audio somewhere of it. And the other one is Ken Maka. It was 2006, and the A's were good.
Right.
And they won their division, I guess, and they ended up playing Detroit for the right to go to the World Series. And earlier in that year, Lou Wolf said to Ken, I'll see you at the parade.
Oh.
And Maka never forgot it. The whole year he said, see me at the parade? What's he talking about? So it's part of baseball. Mario Alioto, you can't even mention the parade. You can't. They call it the P word.
Right.
You can't even say that. If they're 3-0 in the World Series like they were against Detroit, I'd say, Mario, what about the parade? He said, don't say that word. And that's the way baseball is. You don't want to put the circle on your back. You don't want the target on your back.
You mentioned people I love there. Love Mario Alioto. Love Ken Maka. And Marty, we love you as well, brother. And the fans do as well. And they're loving these back and forths with us. An hour and 15 minutes. So we're going to let you get on with the rest of your Monday. But it's always great to wrap Giants baseball with you.
Isn't it Tuesday already? Have we hit Tuesday yet?
Not quite Tuesday, but we love checking in with you. Maybe we can do it, maybe weekly or so. But it's awesome to hear you break down Giants baseball. The number of comments on the in the chat here going, I could listen to Marty Lurie talk baseball all freaking day long. So I feel exactly the same way, Marty. Have a great Monday, and thanks for stopping by the Krueg Show. We'll do it again.
You're doing a great job. I want to tell you, you're working really hard, and it's good stuff. It's really good, and I can't wait for these post games to hear you on that. It's really good.
It's going to be awesome. Have a great one.